Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Jason. I am the host here at Scrum Master channel. Today we are interviewing Naveed Shinwari, who is preparing for the role of a Scrum Master. And me as a senior project manager, I'm going to interview him for the role, and I'm going to ask him questions that I might ask anyone who I'm hiring for my team. And Naveed is going to be answering those questions, and will give you a glimpse of what happens during the role of a Scrum Master interview, what the interaction goes on, and how things go on. So listen in carefully, ask questions in the comments, learn from it, and hopefully this helps everyone. Okay, bro, you ready to get started?
I'm ready. Hi, Chetan. Thanks so much for having me here. My name is Naweed, and I have a little over 7 years experience. I started as an intern in Fannie Mae, where I learned about the agile practices from Fannie Mae Agile Center of Excellence. Over there within the company, I got promoted to agile consultant, and then from there moved to Capital One Bank as a Scrum Master, where I was working with the two teams, and we were working on the release train. From there, I went into my current role where I work as a senior Scrum Master in Wells Fargo Bank. I work with the two teams as well. One is in norming stages and another in performing stages. My activities actually includes on Scrum calls, one-on-one with my team, removing any impediments if there's occurs, and so on.
So your experience is mostly in the financial industry, is that right? Is this correct?
That's correct, yes.
Awesome. And so you said you worked at Capital One and you're working at Wells Fargo right now.
That's correct.
How many teams were you leading at Capital One?
Two.
Two teams. And what was your project like over there?
We were working on data compliances, where we collecting the data from the different department of the banks, and we
Uh-huh.
were make sure they meet the federal regulations checklist.
And the same project at Wells Fargo?
That's correct.
So what was the composition of the teams like at both the places? Great. So you have a great experience working in the financial sector. Is that your main sector that you have worked in so far?
So far, yes.
And so you mentioned you work for Capital One and now you're working for Wells Fargo.
Yes.
So what kind of projects did you work on in Capital One and in Wells Fargo?
We were working on data compliances, where we collect the different data from the different department of the banks and make sure they meet the federal regulations checklist.
So you're doing data compliance in both places, your
That's
teams.
correct.
So what's like the composition of the teams that you had at Capital One?
Well, I was working with two teams, and we had three developers, two testers, and two designers, and we have a Scrum Master, obviously, and a product owner.
Okay, and Wells Fargo?
The same exact thing. This is
Okay,
something is yes.
that's great. And I know you mentioned about norming and performing something like that. So
Right.
give me a little bit of explanation about that. What do you know about that?
These are the maturity stages of the team buildings.
Okay.
We have a storming, we have a forming, we have a I mean, there's 5, 6 stages of the team development.
Uh-huh.
The forming and the storming, they are in almost the maturity where the teams are working together to solve the problem and achieve the sprint goals.
Very good, very good. So now tell me about a little bit about the process that you guys are following at Wells Fargo. I know you're working in data compliance and data regulations. So how do you guys manage your workflow, where the work comes in at? What's kind of the workflow that you guys are getting? Tell me a little bit about the process. You as a Scrum Master, what's the process like?
Well, first of all, when the project comes in, our product owners, he deal with he's a kind of the point of contact for the business and
Uh-huh.
for the Scrum teams. So we have a sprint planning where he sit there and we come as a team. He goes through the process, make sure we as our development team understand the
Mhm.
requirements, and then he breaks down the whole requirement into small product backlog.
Mhm.
From there, we run the sprint, and we have a daily meeting every day, 15 minutes, where the team answered the 3 questions: what we did yesterday, what are we going to do today, and if there's impediments. Then
Mhm.
after that, we have a sprint review where
Mhm.
the product owner, Scrum Master, development team, and the stakeholders come together to
Mhm.
review, to show the demo to the stakeholders.
Mhm.
There, we try to get the feedback from our stakeholders, and we share our experience with it. Our team shared our experience with the stakeholders, to saying what decision they made throughout the sprint, if there was any impediment, what we could do better and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And after that, we have a retrospective, where the team talk about what they did better, what they did wrong, or what can we do to improve it. Basically, we answer all those questions to make sure our next sprints run smoothly, and so we can learn from our past mistakes and problems.
Awesome. So you guys are hardlining following Scrum. You guys are
That's
good,
right.
like good with Scrum. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Have you ever worked in a Kanban environment? Do you know anything about Kanban teams?
Oh, well, we in our place, not really. We are strictly on agile. But however, when there's a need for Kanban, definitely we try to do Scrum Kanban.
Now, tell me, Naveed, what kind of challenges do you face in your teams? What kind of challenges you're facing in your current project? Give me some examples and how you're facing them, how you're handling them. Give me some challenges.
Well, working with the teams and working with a different group of people and with the different backgrounds, and especially over here right now with the different time zones, it's always we facing a problem here and there.
Yes.
One of the problem that we faced about last week in my team was that one of my Scrum team, he thought our the Scrum meetings, daily Scrum meeting was waste of time, and they didn't want to show up because he already knew, we already talked about it yesterday, and he was like, every day 15 minutes,
Mhm.
I don't want to waste it, right?
Okay.
What I did, I had a one-on-one with him. I explained what is the problem, why he cannot give that 15 minutes to the
Mhm.
team, because it's extremely important to understand, especially for me as a Scrum Master, because I need to be aware what my team is doing, if there's any impediments, what they did yesterday.
Naveed, what are some of the challenges that you're facing in your current team? What or how do you handle them in your current project? Any challenges as a Scrum Master that you have faced? And describe some of those.
Well, working with a group of people from the different backgrounds, especially from right now from the different time zones, there's always going to be some issues that we will face. However, one of the issues that recently I faced, that was one of my Scrum team members wasn't really following the Scrum principles. For example, not meeting 15 minutes for the daily Scrum meetings every day. And he thought that was a waste of time. So what I did was I scheduled one-on-one, tried to listen what he was saying, what was the problem, and why he's doing that. After that, after speaking to him, he said, well, we do spend 15 minutes every day. That is a waste of time. I already know what to do, and da da da. So I explained the importance of the daily Scrum meetings, and at the end of the day, he was happy, and he understood the importance of the agile process.
Great. And that's a good example. Now, Naveed, tell me what what did you learn from your last retrospective? When did you conducted your last retrospective? What was the action points you did, or what did you improve in your team from the last retrospective?
From the last retrospective was that my product owner needs to be more available for our team to answer the questions. We were working on a project and we had some impediments that we had some problem actually with the goal. One of our team members did not understand the question. I mean the goal clearly. So I was trying to reach out to our Scrum Master, product owner. Unfortunately, he was unavailable. He was busy with other meetings. So what we figured out that Scrum product owner needs to be more available for our team to answer our questions.
Great. And so now, what are some of the roles and responsibilities that that you think that a Scrum Master? What are some of the skills that you think that a Scrum Master should have during different meetings? And also what are some of the ways that you have learned in your experience that a Scrum Master should have and Scrum Master should, with your experience, how should they do things with the teams? What is the best strategy that you follow?
Right. Well, first of all, Scrum Master is a servant leader. He's a coach. He's a trainer. He is there to motivate his team. And it's really important to be it's really important for a Scrum Master to have a influential, to be a leader, to to be observant, to be a good communicator, to be a good listener. That way, he can communicate better with their team. And what I learned from that, I'm a certified Scrum Master, and I learned from there. From my, I have, like I said before, I have a little over 70 years of experience. I learned from my experience, and working in this situation as a Scrum Master, you learn every one thing or new thing every single day. Now, that's because, like I said, different group of people. There's always new challenges, and you learn from experience.
Mhm. So, tell me, which is your favorite sprint ceremony?
For me, is a retrospective,
Okay.
definitely. That way, because we as a human being, we need to understand that we need to improve every single day. And retrospective is basically kind of feedback that we get from our development team. And that help us to improve and develop every single day and every single sprint.
Mhm. That's great. And how long are your sprints?
The sprints are 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. And so, what is like the what is like? Let's say, for example, your team is working in a sprint, and you're facing challenges, and you're not able to meet your sprint goal. How would you handle that situation?
Well, good question. We face these challenges. We have faced these challenges during my past years of experience. My initial thing will be to communicate with my team. What is going on? Why we cannot meet our team, our commitment? Then work with the product owner so he can communicate with our business, our client. That what can we produce if we can produce any MVP? That way he can kind of show it to their clients in a way. Yeah, so I think communication will be a better way to and make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Awesome. And what is your understanding of? So, how would you improve a team's velocity? Let's say if you get a team is struggling with the work items, how would you go about improving the team's velocity?
You mean working, having a problem with the goal of the team or the understanding of the goals?
So, for example, let's put it this way: a team, they are committing, let's say, 20 story points per
Right,
sprint, but they are only completing 12, or
right.
they are not even completing 12; they are only completing 10. So they are having a lot of problems with the velocity. You come in as Scrum Master. How will you improve the team's velocity?
Well, so what I like to do is I like to include my team from the in the initial planning of the project, so that that way they better understand the importance of each user story or the any sprint. Um, um, and I would work with my product owner to make sure we prioritize the product backlog. That way, when the team is not really assigning like 20 points and 30 points, I will have a communication with my team to make sure they do not have that a big user story by themselves. Make sure they break it down the way we can reach our goal.
Okay. So, do you think that'll increase the velocity?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. What are some other ways you will increase the velocity of your team? Like, let's say you can only commit so many stories. You have to commit that many stories. You have to bring your team's velocity to that level. How will you go about it?
By increasing the team members, the size of the team.
No,
How
no,
you do
no, no,
that?
no,
How do
no.
you do that?
So, so now I'll ask you again, okay?
Okay.
What you have to say is, I will try to automate some processes. I will try to automate whether it is the testing part. I will try to automate the testing part. If they are still doing manual testing, I will try to automate it. Then you will say that I will try to find out, you know, are you writing?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm writing it
Yeah, you're
down.
right. Yeah, I'll try to
Yeah.
find out like why is the team overcommitting? How are they analyzing their stories? Maybe there's something with the story points that can be done. I will try to find out. So why are they overcommitting? What's their actual capacity, and then stick with that. Not overcommit. Keep the commitments low. Try to automate as much as we can. You know, work with the team to kind of work with the product owner to have a clear definition of done with the stories, so that the team is not left guessing. When they are doing the stories, if the team is guessing, oh, what's the definition of done, what's the definition of, it takes time away from their work. So work
Right.
with the product owner to make sure that stories have a complete and pure definition of done, so that the team has a clear understanding of what they need to work on. And also, like, automate as much as we can, automate as many things as we can, as much as we can.
Okay.
Okay. So how do you improve the velocity of your teams?
Well, first of all, we brought. Again, sorry.
Yeah, how would you improve the velocity of your teams?
By automating some of the tasks. For
Hmm.
example, if the testing is they're doing Scrum manually, we can do that through automations. Working with my product owner to make sure we have a clear definition for the user stories. That way, our development team is not spending time on looking for the definition. We want to make sure everything is clear in the sprint planning before we go ahead and start the sprint. And also, yeah, I think that will be. I think that is one of the ways that we can improve that.
Awesome, that's a great answer. Now, let's say you are in a sprint, and the stakeholder comes in during the sprint demo, or before the sprint demo, they come in and they try to push on more work. First of all, what is the term that you use when someone try to introduce, or product owner try to introduce more work during the sprint? What is the term that you use for that?
Scoop creep.
Okay, so let's say if a stakeholder comes in and they try to introduce scope creep, or they try to push more work to your team members or to you or through your product owner, what will be your response and reaction to that? How will you handle that?
Well, first of all, we need to converse. We need to have a conversation with our product owner that he cannot really disrupt our sprint, because each developer, each Scrum team member is committed to a certain points, and we are focused on reaching our sprint goal. Then what I need to do is we need to figure out which one has the most which one has the most priority. If the one the new scope creep is has the more priority, then we need to take some task from the current sprint and replace it for within the scope creep.
So you will replace the current scope with those tasks based on the priority?
Yes.
Okay. Now my next question is, how do you prioritize your stories? What are the steps you use to prioritize your stories when pulling them into a sprint, you and with the product owner? How do you do that? What's the process like? Walk me through it.
Okay. When we get the products, like I said, the product owner is a point of contact between the business and the Scrum team. He sit with the client. He figure out what is the importance for them, for our clients, and what user story can we can deliver high values to them. We break down the requirements of the whole. I mean, the product. Bro, fuck up this story. I don't know. How do you do that?
So how you do prioritization is the product owner gets the features.
Right.
You break the feature, the product owner breaks the feature down into epic.
Okay.
Once they are broken down into epic, there is a backlog refinement meeting between the product owner and the development team and you. You facilitate that meeting, product owner runs that meeting.
Okay.
In that meeting, the product owner, he 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 basically breaks the stories down, it breaks the items down into user stories.
Okay. In the refinement.
Yes, in the refinement you break down into user stories, yes.
Okay.
But you don't give them story points yet.
Okay.
During the sprint plan, then happens the sprint planning. During the
Okay.
sprint planning, the team gives story points to the stories and they assign it to each other.
Okay. That's okay.
Make sense?
Makes sense.
Now, how do you, now my question was, how do you prioritize them? How do you prioritize them is, you can say, either through Moscow technique or WSGF technique. Use WSGF technique because it's very good.
Well,
WSGF is WSJF technique is how we prioritize our stories. You don't, you are the facilitator. Okay. The product owner is the one prioritizing the stories. You are facilitating the meeting. But when they
right.
ask you the question, you have to answer. We use
Okay.
WSJF technique. What is WSJF?
Weighted short jobs first.
Yes, the job that gives the most value in the minimum amount of time to the business owner.
Right. Okay.
That is the job, that is the story that goes first. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
That makes sense.
So how do you prioritize your story? Walk me through the whole process, where the story comes in, to how is it assigned to team members. Walk me through the whole process.
Okay, well, first the product owner get the feature. He
Mhm.
breaks it down to epics, and from there, during refinement, me and him, we sit there and we divide it into user stories, and then we meet with our team and during sprint planning, and
Mhm.
each one assign the points, and we assign the tasks to the user stories to our team. We
Mhm.
use the metric of WJSF. I'm sorry, WSJF. Yes.
So what is WSJF?
Weight shortest job first. Basically saying that you prioritize the user stories based on the high value
High value of what?
to the customers.
Okay. And how are you guys doing your capacity planning? What's kind of your formula? How do you do that?
I don't know, bro.
Yeah. So now for capacity planning, this is how you do it. So for capacity planning, I have an Excel template. In that Excel template, I have names of all my team members and it's pre-filled.
What
Capacity
is it?
planning is, see, listen to me, don't write, listen to me. Capacity planning is basically how many hours are your team members going to work that week. Okay, so for
Hmm.
capacity planning, you can say, hey, we have Excel template, team members tell this many hours they can work. From those many hours, I take out like 5 6 hours every week for the sprint ceremonies, retrospectives, the daily stand up and everything. Then the time that I have left, I take out like 20% of the time for like bugs, for dependencies, for load factor, say load factor. Okay, for load factor, and then the 80% of the time is a time that they are actually going to be working, and then we can break that time into story points and assign them stories based on that. You understand the
Okay,
process now?
understand.
Okay. How do you do your capacity planning? What's the process you follow for your capacity planning?
Well, we have an Excel template where we have the hours of our team,
Mhm.
how many hours they can work per week.
Mhm.
Then we take some hours for the Scrum meetings,
Uh-huh.
planning and retrospective and review, and then
Mhm.
20% for the impediments and the blockers and the issues, and the rest we those hours we divided by the user stories and divide the work.
Awesome. That's great.